Europe imports over 80% of its solar panels from one country, and nearly all rare earth processing happens in that same country. You guessed it, it's China. And here's the uncomfortable truth nobody's admitting. Breaking this dependency could actually make climate change worse in the short term. Worse, not better. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this might be the most dangerous dependency Europe has ever built. When European leaders committed trillions to decarbonization, they thought they were buying technology. They weren't. They were handing over control of their entire energy future. See, China doesn't just make solar panels, they mine the lithium. They process 90% of the world's rare earths. They refine the cobalt. They manufacture the battery cells. Europe isn't just competing anymore, it's trapped. How did we get here? It's simple, really. In the early 2000s, Western companies wanted cheap manufacturing. At the same time, China wanted geopolitical leverage. While European solar firms chased quarterly profits, Chinese state-backed companies were willing to lose money for years just to dominate the market. While Western governments debated policy, Beijing was quietly securing mining rights across 3 continents. Just look at the numbers. China controls 77% of global battery production, 80% of solar manufacturing, 90% of rare earth processing. You can't just switch suppliers. These are entire ecosystems that took China 30 years to build. So every solar panel Europe installs today just makes the dependency deeper. Europe is betting its entire future on technology it doesn't control. Wind turbines? They need magnets made from rare earths that China processes. Electric cars? They need batteries with materials China refines. Europe's energy future depends on a rival. Not an ally, a rival. Now, imagine this scenario. It's what's keeping defense planners awake right now. A crisis over Taiwan erupts. The West imposes sanctions. China retaliates. And what's the first thing they restrict? Solar panels, batteries, rare earth exports. What happens to Europe? The green energy transition stops. It doesn't just slow down, it stops. Wind farms are left half-built, EV factories shut down, solar installations are frozen, but energy demand doesn't stop. It keeps growing. And Europe has already closed coal plants and decommissioned nuclear reactors. The result? Rolling blackouts in major cities, emergency restarts of fossil fuel plants. This isn't science fiction. European defense ministries are running these exact scenarios right now. At this point, Europe isn't choosing between climate and security. That choice was quietly made years ago. The only question is, how much leverage has already been lost? But it gets worse. This dependency isn't just about factories and materials, it's about knowledge. It took China 3 decades of environmental damage, technical failures, and massive investment to master rare earth processing. You can't just download that knowledge. You can't just buy it. Lithium mined in Australia and cobalt from the Congo still get shipped to China for processing. Why? Because that's where the infrastructure is. Europe has the final assembly line, but China has the structural power. And there is no backup plan when that power is used against you. If you're in your 40s or 50s, listen up. The energy system we're building right now will still be running when you retire. These decisions will determine whether Europe controls its own energy or depends on Beijing for the next 30 years. Your energy bills, your job security, even your pension are all tied to supply chains that run through a geopolitical competitor. So here's the question I want to leave you with. If you had to choose, which failure is more acceptable, missing our climate targets or losing our energy sovereignty? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Because this isn't a theoretical debate anymore. Europe is trying to fix this. There's the Critical Raw Materials Act, new mining deals in Africa, subsidies for battery production, even exploration for rare earths in Greenland. But here's the problem. This takes a decade, minimum. It costs hundreds of billions. And even then, Europe will still be partially dependent on China. Meanwhile, the climate clock is ticking. Every month this continues, Europe loses leverage, it can never fully get back. The gap widens. In 5 years, unwinding this will cost exponentially more. Maybe too much. What about the United States? Surely they've figured this out, right? Not really. The Inflation Reduction Act is throwing hundreds of billions of dollars at domestic production and building supply chains with allies. But even with more money and a greater sense of urgency than Europe, breaking Chinese dominance is brutally hard. Why? China has a 15-year head start, lower costs, better expertise, and unlimited state backing. They are not just going to give this up. Now, here's the uncomfortable part nobody seems to want to talk about. Where does the silicon for all those solar panels come from? A significant portion comes from Xinjiang, a region where forced labor has been widely documented. And where does the processing for rare earth elements happen? In Chinese facilities that create toxic waste and contaminated water. So Europe's ethical, clean, green transition is running on supply chains with some very serious human rights and environmental problems attached. The irony is just brutal. Think about it. Europe spent the last 20 years desperately trying to escape its dependency on Russian gas. Energy security became the #1 priority. The mantra was, never again. Never again would a single supplier have that much leverage over the continent. And yet, here we are in the exact same situation, just with a different supplier and a different resource. But there's a key difference. You can switch gas suppliers in a matter of months. You can't switch green tech suppliers for decades. So when does this all come to a head? Does it happen when China restricts exports during a political crisis? Or when rare earth prices suddenly spike, making green tech unaffordable? Maybe it's when voters start demanding changes, or when a simple shortage reveals just how fragile this whole system really is. Nobody knows for sure. And that uncertainty is the real danger. Europe essentially has 3 options, and all of them are pretty terrible. Option 1, accept the dependency and just hope that relations with China stay stable. Basically, repeat the exact same strategy they used with Russia and hope for a different outcome. Option 2, go all in on building independent supply chains, no matter the cost, no matter the immediate climate impact. Option 3, try to balance both, and in doing so, probably fail at everything. Every single option is a bad one. Let's do the math here. Rapid decarbonization using Chinese technology means you might hit your climate goals, but you lose your economic and political sovereignty. Building independent supply chains means you will almost certainly miss your climate targets and inflict serious economic pain on your citizens. And trying to do both at once likely means you achieve neither. This trade-off might be completely unsolvable. This isn't just a problem for governments, it is a problem for businesses trying to decide whether to invest billions in electrification when the supply chains could vanish overnight. It's for entire industries betting their future on renewables when the core infrastructure depends on a strategic competitor. And it's for financial institutions trying to price this massive geopolitical risk into green investments. These decisions are being made right now, and they will define Europe's competitiveness for decades to come. And what does this mean for you, personally? It affects your energy costs, your job security, your retirement savings, your ability to charge your electric car or heat your home. All of it is connected through supply chains that you don't control, managed by a country that may not share your interests. The most frustrating part is that this situation wasn't created overnight. It was built gradually, through thousands of seemingly rational individual decisions. A company buying cheaper solar panels from China. A government prioritizing the speed of its green transition over the security of its supply chain. An investor chasing high returns without seeing the hidden risk. No single decision created this mess, but together they built a structure that is now nearly impossible to dismantle. The Europe-China green energy dependency is one of the defining challenges of our time. It proves that tech transitions don't happen in a vacuum. They're shaped by policy, by competition, and by the choices we made years ago. It shows that renewable energy can create dependencies every bit as dangerous as the ones from fossil fuels. They're just different. Here's what it all comes down to. Europe has already made its choice. It just won't admit it out loud yet. The dependency is now structural. It's locked in. The real question isn't whether Europe will rely on China for its green future. The question is what happens when that dependency smacks into reality. The trap is set. The countdown has begun. And the crisis won't announce itself with a big bang. It'll start when one shipment doesn't arrive. When one factory goes dark, that's all it takes. And in that moment, Europe will discover exactly what it traded away. If you understand why this kind of analysis matters, then subscribe now, because what comes next is even more critical, and you'll want to see it coming. Thanks for watching.